Democrats pull away from AIPAC, reflecting a broader shift. A quiet retreat by Democrats from the preeminent pro-Israel lobbying group is the latest evidence of a realignment underway in Congress on Israel. So you're beginning to see it, albeit it is happening slowly. You are beginning to see this trend really ascending, this trend against AIPAC ascending. And so it says here, I'm going to read this to you guys. It says here, for 17 years, Representative Hakeem Jeffries, Democrat of New York and the minority leader, has been taking polite meetings with J Street, the center-left lobbying group that promotes a two-state solution in the Middle East. But in all those years of relationship building, Mr. Jeffries never sought the group's endorsement. So he's been working with this center-left Jewish lobbying group called J Street, but he never accepted J Street's endorsement. Why? Because Mr. Jeffries has been getting endorsements from AIPAC up the roof. And so it says here that he never accepted or he never sought after an endorsement from J Street, and it says here he was more closely associated with AIPAC, the hardline pro-Israel lobbying organization that has long supported him financially. So AIPAC has got this guy, AIPAC has really gotten Mr. Jeffries by the balls here, but Mr. Jeffries is beginning to slightly turn away from AIPAC. And so it says here that Mr. Jeffries has in the past discouraged lawmakers it backs from aligning themselves formally with a group that holds a different stance on Israel. That changed last month when Mr. Jeffries, for the first time, was open to and accepted J Street's official support. It was a coup for J Street, which is highly critical of the current Israeli government and seeking to establish itself as the mainstream voice about Israel on Capitol Hill. So for the first time ever, Mr. Jeffries has accepted support from J Street, which is to the ire of AIPAC. So we're beginning to see the beginning of the end of AIPAC. We're beginning to see the trend. And you watch. You're already seeing this, albeit slightly, but you are already beginning to see this. Politicians coming out and advertising themselves by saying, I am not backed by AIPAC. We've already seen this a little bit. I'm not backed by AIPAC. This is the beginning of a new trend. And believe me when I say this trend is going to get bigger. It's going to get bigger. Mark my words. This is not the end of this. It's not going to stop here. The train has been set. And so it says here, Mr. Jeffries is so closely associated with the American Israel Public Affairs Committee, AIPAC, that the radio host Charlemagne recently mocked him as AIPAC Shakur. So the fact that he would take such a step is a symbol of a broader sea change occurring in Congress when it comes to Israel and the clout of what has for decades been the most powerful pro-Israel group in American politics. So there is a change that is happening in the political atmosphere in America. A change, really a tide rising up against AIPAC here. And you're seeing it a lot in the Democrat side. Now, why do you think this is? Well, I'll tell you why. Because if you look at the latest Pew Research poll on American support for Israel, it's very clear that 69% of American Democrats are anti-Israel. 69% of Democrats in America are anti-Israel. So that widespread, overwhelming sentiment is going to be seen reflected in the behavior of politicians, in the behavior of Democrat politicians. And so you see Hakeem Jeffries saying, well, I'm going to get the endorsement of this Jewish lobbying group that is actually critical of Israel. And he's never done this before. This is the first time that he has done this, which means we're beginning to see this trend. And you look at the internet, guys, you look at X, you look at YouTube, you look at Facebook, Instagram. What do you see flooding all these social media outlets? What do you see flooding all these social media platforms? criticism of Israel, flooding these platforms, criticism of Israel. So that is going to be seen reflected in the political atmosphere. I've said this before and I'll keep saying it. Politics is downstream from metapolitics. All political trends starts with the metapolitical world. The metapolitical world influences and determines the political world. So the political world is senators, congressmen, the executive branch, the Supreme Court. That's the political world. And that is determined by the metapolitical world. The reason why pro-Israel politicians have dominated American politics for so long is because pro-Israel sentiment has dominated American society for so many decades. You go back to the 1960s, 70s, 80s, 90s, early 2000s, Americans have been overwhelmingly pro-Israel. That's beginning to decline. You are seeing a alteration, you are seeing a shift in the political world when it comes to Israel. And that shift begins in the metapolitical world. The metapolitical world is the world of public opinion, what people are saying. Music can also play a role in the metapolitical world. Culture, what people are saying online, what people are saying amongst themselves, what people are saying in their friend groups, what people are saying in their social circles, what people are saying at work, what movies are saying, right? This is all part of the metapolitical world. And if something gets big enough in the metapolitical world where you have just a deluge of people saying a particular opinion, that will inevitably be seen in the political world. It's just the way it works. That's the way things have always worked. Robert Hooker, or Richard Hooker, who was a very famous British political thinker, he said that all political systems are determined by the masses. This is what he said. I got the Elden Ring music playing in the back. He said that all political systems, be they parliamentarian or be they monarchist, are determined by the consent of the masses. And he said that even if you have a king, that king's rule is determined by the consent of the masses. If enough people hate the king, they will overthrow the king. If enough of the aristocracy hates the king, they will overthrow the king. That's what happened to Edward II. He was eventually overthrown by the aristocracy. They got rid of him because he was so unpopular. So all government systems, all political systems, all political arrangements are ultimately determined by the masses. And if enough people go against Israel, you're going to see that being reflected in the political realm. With American support for the Israeli government's management of the conflict in Gaza undergoing a seismic reversal and Democratic voters' support for the Jewish state dropping off steeply, like I said, 69% of Democrats do not support Israel, AIPAC is becoming an increasingly toxic brand for some Democrats on Capitol Hill. Now, what have I said numerous times? Israel has already lost the Democrats. They've already lost the Democrats. They've already lost the progressives. They've lost those people. So who are the Israelis banking on? They're banking on the conservatives. The conservatives are their last hope. If they lose the conservatives, they lose everyone. So who are the biggest threats to the Israeli narrative? Who are the biggest threats to the pro-Israel narrative? Tucker Carlson. Megyn Kelly is now seen as a threat. She's seen as doing the bidding of Hamas, as Charlie Kirk said. And Charlie Kirk, before he was murdered, was seen as a threat. He was seen as a threat for the Israeli narrative because he was beginning to talk about Epstein and the Mossad. He was beginning to talk about how Israel allowed the October the 7th attack to happen. He was leading people down that rabbit hole. He invited Dave Smith to his event. He invited Tucker Carlson to his event. He invited Tucker Carlson to the TPUSA event in July. And what did Tucker Carlson say in that event? He said any American who fights for the IDF should be stripped of their citizenship. That's what he said. And you saw all these pro-Israel people getting up and walking out of the event as Tucker Carlson was saying that. So they began to see Kirk as a threat. Why? Because Kirk inviting Tucker, Kirk inviting Smith to the TPUSA event meant American conservative youths listening to anti-Israel statements, anti-Israel opinions being expressed. That is a threat to Israel. Because if they lose the conservatives, they lose America. That's why they saw Kirk as a threat. That's why they saw TPUSA, the way it was going down, as a threat. That's why the donors said, we're not going to give money to you anymore, Kirk. They were jumping off the ship. They were abandoning him. Because the whole thing for Israel hinges on the conservatives. They lose the conservatives, they lose Israel. That's it. And so you're seeing everything just going downhill for Israel. They've lost the Democrats. They've lost at least 69% of the Democrats. They've lost the majority of conservatives who are under the age of 30. They've lost the majority of Republicans who are under the age of 50. It's all going down.